Manychat just released a new feature allowing you to use AI to reply to questions, comments, and replies inside of your inbox 24/7. In this video, I'll show you how to set this up inside of your own Manychat account. We'll look at the overview of how it looks inside of Manychat, the knowledge base you can build, and then the skills that you're going to add into that as well. First, we'll look at the overview of how it looks inside of the Manychat account. Secondly, we'll look at the knowledge base you can build and using external knowledge sources. And then thirdly, the skills component, which is where you allow it to answer comments and replies and DMs. So it all happens for you 24/7 around the clock without you having to do it manually. Okay, so this is how it's going to look inside of your Manychat account. So if you go down to the AI section on the left-hand side here, you're going to first see this overview section. This is essentially going to show you how the AI is currently being used. So how many replies it has replied to, how many comments it's replied to, how many followers it's gained by using AI, which I'll show you in a second, what goals you've set within inside of Manychat and how that goal is getting on. And also if you want to add in any other additional information to help it answer other specific questions. So it gives you an overview in a kind of a dashboard format. Now, at the moment it's in a beta setup, so I'm sure over the coming months more features are going to be added and this is certainly going to improve. But for now, this is a fairly kind of simple setup. We've got an overview of what's going on inside of Manychat, the knowledge base, and then the skills that we can add to that. So this is what it's going to look like to begin with inside of the overview. And then the second component we've got is the knowledge base. And this really is where all the information is going to get pulled into. So if you get asked a question about how you book a call, for example, if you do use sales calls or consultation style calls, then you can add the link to it and sort of signpost the AI to make sure it sends the correct link. Perhaps you want to send it to a website so it can pull the information from the website and it can refer to information on a landing page. It can also do that effectively. Or you can very simply just add in text into a box, copied and pasted from a source, and that can also answer specific questions as well. Now, within a coaching context, you're probably going to have a few different key elements. You're going to have questions around what the next steps are, what the program looks like, how it looks when you work with people, what kind of support you get, how the check-in process works, specific case studies or kind of typical results you might get inside of time frame, pricing, and all of that could be answered for you without you having to manually get into the DMs every single day and answer the same question for the 100th time. You build the knowledge base once and it can refer to it and continue to answer questions round the clock for you 24/7. So super, super powerful. So let's look at the first one. Let's look at links. So let's say I've added in a booking link to begin with. So the first step for most people to work with me would be to book in a systems audit call. So we want to include the link to make sure it can send the correct link at the right time. So that would be the first thing we could do. But within this section, we could also add in, for example, your website or a landing page of your program details, or an external knowledge source, but it will read that link, it will pull the information from that link, and then it can refer to it later. So you can add as many links as you like in this first section, or we can add in details where we can copy and paste from an external source. And what I'd recommend you do to begin with is set up an FAQ Google Docs, which answers all the common questions that you get, and you keep adding to it as you go, and then you add that knowledge back into the AI as you grow. So if you start getting particular questions, you can start to add to that knowledge base over time. So it could be things like, where are you based? What do you offer? Who do you work with? In my case, I've got kind of specific offers with specific details of what's included. How much it costs, what tools do you work with in my context. So you basically want to build up around 15 to 20 questions that you commonly get asked about your coaching business. Now, these are probably going to be, as I've said, things around what's involved in the program, client results, timeframes, pricing, support that you get, maybe where you're based, if there's any in-person sort of component to that, if you do some sort of hybrid coaching. So you want to basically answer the top 15 to 20 questions inside of a Google Doc and then copy that into a section like this. So I'll talk about all of these in a second, but if we go to the FAQ section, you just copy and paste that text in with the question and the answer. So in this case, what Smart Coach Systems is, who I typically work with, what the offers are, what you get inside of certain offers, how you decide what automations get built, because I often provide automations for coaches, how much services are, what tools you use, typical results. So you want to have one that's just a common questions, essentially. Now you also want to have something like, in this case, if I'm inside of an automation-based business, common project requests. If someone says hello and just reaches out and just says hello, what you want to say. So in this case, if someone says hello or provides a general greeting, answer with hello. This is the Smart AI, Henry's digital helper. How can I help? You could have something very similar set up so that if someone simply says hello and doesn't really ask a question, you have a basic response immediately to that person rather than it just being left blank, which is the core problem that we typically face. In my context, I've added in ones around support questions, so how people get supported when they work with me, maybe some specific technical questions about the setup of Manychat. In a coaching business, that might be technical questions around what the style of programming looks like, what the coaching philosophy would be, how many sessions per week you typically do, how long those sessions typically are, that type of thing. Testimonials, so it can refer to testimonials from previous clients. So if, for example, someone says, what typical results would you expect to achieve in X time frame, it can look up your previous testimonials and then give a snippet from those clients and say, well, typically this type of person gets this type of result. Here's an example of one of the testimonials that we've recently had. So you have testimonials to hand as well. Objection handling is a really good one because that typically is where you want to be answering those questions inside of the DMs in advance of a sales call or consultation, which it might be, it might appear expensive, or it might appear that the duration is shorter than anticipated, or maybe there's an objection around the amount of support that's received on face value, or any number of things or reasons why people might not necessarily want to book a call initially, again, can be answered inside of this objection handling space. So in this context, the kind of objections you might get if you're trying to set up some automations would be, why is it expensive? Why is it an investment in my business? In this case, it's going to look at the ROI for the coach. I could just hire a VA for cheaper, sure, but the focus here is that it's a 24-hour. It never sleeps, it never stops, it never makes mistakes, it's instant, and it costs almost nothing. So that's the objection handling for that one. How much time will I need to spend setting it up? So if there's a time component to doing it, in the coaching context, it would be, how much time do I need to commit every week to this program? I'm not ready yet, might be a common question or a common objection. Again, it can handle that by providing another resource potentially, or a free piece of value to keep them engaged for a little bit longer. And then, does this really work? Is then going to refer to those success stories that we've mentioned earlier. Tone and chat style, I've just added in something here to say when you're talking to leads, be friendly, helpful, and professional. Whenever it feels appropriate to do so, ask a follow-up question. Now, typically at the moment, it hasn't quite got the capability to ask that kind of follow-up question quite as effectively as other systems. So for now, it's kind of a bit more of a reactive AI. In other words, it responds to questions that it gets asked rather than proactively seeking to collect more information. But I'm sure over time, this is going to improve massively. You could also have your offer doc. So if someone says what's involved or what's included in this coaching offer, again, it can look up, in this case, for my DM engine, it will have all the information there about what's included, what automations get set up, how you get support, what the first 7 days looks like. So again, it will answer all of those questions in advance. And then when it feels appropriate to do so, the person might say, okay, great, sounds good. What's the next step? It will say, book a call, here's the link. And obviously it refers back to the link up here. So that's super, super helpful because again, it can add all of that information into one knowledge base, look it up and answer all the questions 24/7 for you. Files at the moment can't be added, but they're going to be added soon, which is cool. So you might be able to upload a Word document or a PDF of your offer, or whatever else you want that AI to be able to refer to. So that's the knowledge base we've now set up. We've got the links for calls, we've got links for websites, links for offer docs, any kind of key details that you want to add in here around FAQs. As I say, use an FAQ document and copy and paste that into this details here, so you can look up all the common questions that are typically asked and have a ready-made answer ready to go. Then finally, under skills, this is where we set up the AI replies and comments section. So if you go to AI replies, then it's going to reply to DMs and comments using the knowledge base that you shared. So if we go to the AI replies now, it can preview what we've just set up, which is really helpful. So rather than just hoping that this is going to work, we can preview how the AI is actually going to operate using the answers we just set up. So let's say I say hello, someone who's just reaching out. Okay, so at the moment it doesn't seem to recognize that one. So at the moment, if the AI doesn't have an answer ready to look for, it will basically say, look, there isn't an answer available right now, and it will then assign it to the person, to you. So if it hits a stumbling block and it doesn't know the answer, it won't try and make the answer up. It can only answer the questions from the knowledge base that you've already set up. And then it will obviously hand it off to you to come back and answer. But that's then a good opportunity that if it doesn't know the answer, to then add it to the knowledge base later, so that as time goes on, maybe you haven't quite answered all the questions that might crop up. But when they do, and if there isn't an answer, add them to the knowledge base and you're in a much better position. But let's say someone's in the DMs now, and the question from my coaching context is, what is the process for working with you? So someone's really keen to work with me, and they send me a message saying, what is the process for working with you? Well, it's now going to look at that knowledge base, and it's going to basically outline these steps. It's going to say, to work with us, there's going to be a payment, an intake form, the access, the setup around 7 days, documentation that's provided, training, the support. If you want to add new automations or integrations, you can email us with a description of the task, tools you want to connect, and examples of desired output, which is exactly what I want them to be able to do. Let's say they're interested. How do I book a call? Well, it's now obviously got the link to book the call, and it knows the process for what happens next. So that person says, yep, all sounds great, I want to book a call. Here we go. To book a call, you can now schedule a systems audit call using this link, which correctly has sent them across to book a call with me. Let's say there's other questions though, like how much does it cost? Now in my case, because the projects are case by case, there isn't really a single cost because it depends on the complexity of the project. So I've added that to the FAQ section. So it should answer correctly. Your investments depend on the level of complexity involved in setting up your systems. And that's where we obviously will chat that through on a systems audit call. Let's say that another question might be, this is a common one I might get, I'm not a very technical person. Is this still the right thing for me? Like typically coaches will say, I'm not very techie. I don't really understand the technology. Like, is this going to work for me? This is typically the answer that I would give. So yes, it doesn't matter if you're not a technical person, the service is designed to be done for you, meaning minimal time is needed. Additionally, you'll receive training on how the system works, and there's daily Slack support and weekly calls available if you get stuck. So perfect. That's exactly what I would want it to respond on that type of question. So as you can see, really, really powerful. It's basically got all the links it needs, all the knowledge base it needs. It can answer all the questions. And if it does ever get stuck and doesn't have the right answer, rather than just make it a mess by coming up with an answer itself, it will hand it off to you, and it will make sure you can pick up it will hand it off to you and make sure you're ready to step in with the right answer at the right time, rather than making it all up. Secondly, then when it comes to comments, if we click on this, if someone leaves a nice comment, we can actually set up an AI tone. Now, I haven't set this up yet, but what you can do is click on this. It will capture your tone individually, so how you respond to comments normally, how you respond to DMs, and it will then create a style of response to comments as well. So it's not just the DMs or replies, it is also comments on your content as well. So that would be really helpful if, for example, you wanted to deliver a lead magnet and you said, comment the word Manychat below, and you want it to be able to send an automatic reply. The AI then could, within the automation section of Manychat, send the right lead capture form, or could just send the resource directly. But then secondly, it could also make sure that it replies to the comment and acknowledges the fact that that's been sent over. It will say something like, hey, thanks so much, that's been sent. Another cool thing that it also can do is growing your following list by replying to people who've engaged with your content but don't follow you, with a message to basically follow you, and that's like a follow request. So it can say, hey, glad you're here, follow me if you're keen to learn more about implementing AI systems in your business, or in your coaching case, if you're keen to learn about losing weight or becoming stronger or getting faster, or whatever the key goal is you work with clients. So once that's set up, you then have your replies to comments inbound, you have responses to comments, and you also have requests for followers once someone's engaged with your content but isn't following you yet. There are sort of two key limitations at the moment to the setup. Firstly, you can't have it integrated within your main automation setup. You might have, for example, a lead magnet setup automation where someone comments a keyword and then you send them a lead magnet. Well, at the moment you can't integrate the AI setup with the automations in the same way. So you can't have an existing automation and then add the AI in. They're almost two separate things at the moment. The other one, as I see it, is that you can only have kind of responses to questions that are inbound. It doesn't necessarily then follow up as you would do if you were to integrate another knowledge source like ChatGPT into this knowledge base so that it can start to ask questions, collect more information and add that to your CRM. At the moment, it would just respond to the knowledge base that you've added. So that would probably be the main limitations at the moment, but it is in beta, as I say, so it probably is going to evolve and get much, much more powerful over the coming months. So in summary, it's a really powerful setup. We'll save a huge amount of time for coaches. We'll certainly handle a massive amount of heavy loading around responding to typical questions, answering inbound questions from leads, following up with people and getting more followers, and adding to your email list over time by sending the right link at the right time, as well as booking calls. So super, super powerful. And if you would like to learn more about 14 ways in 14 days that you can automate your business utilizing AI systems, click the link below and I will send that over to you right away.